Nola being such a powerful, strong character, how do you see yourself in her?
I see pieces of myself in her and then pieces of myself that I've always wanted to be by playing her. And so I've learned a lot about myself playing her. She's also made me embrace parts of myself that I hadn't embraced before. But Nova is a woman that, we need. We need more Novas in the world. The coolest thing to me has been to meet fans who are like, I am Nova in real life, and meeting these women who are just excited to finally see a version of themselves on television. That's been really, really cool. And that, women really relate to her sort of modern day woman who's kind of a beautiful mess, like women really get that. And so it's been nice for me to be embraced playing her because I always thought that, like, people aren't going to like that she's kind of messy and all over the place. But people are kind of like, that's life. So it's nice meeting women who are just so, like, in awe and feel the familiarity when they watch us on screen. I think we need more characters like that where we see ourselves reflected back.
Absolutely. So, what advice can you give our listeners who are also aspiring to be where you are?
The biggest advice I got was it's a marathon, not a sprint. That's the biggest advice I got from Courtney B. Vance years ago before I graduated. And it's really been that. It's about longevity in the career and the long haul and how can you sustain a career at whatever level. Because you could be a one-hit wonder, and then that could be it. So you have to always, I think, be constantly looking for the next thing. There's so many stories to tell, and to make sure that you sort of keep telling those stories and not be afraid to tell the stories, because a story that you might not think, people will relate to, you tell it and people actually do, and I'm loving that in the last couple of years, just seeing a lot of stories, especially in the Black community, that are really sort of textural and on deep levels of our history, the things we've been through as a people, and they're telling these stories in a way that people are actually tuning in and listening instead of tuning out. Because sometimes you can tell it in a way and people can't hear it, and I love that about our show. I really feel like we presented the stories in a way where people can hear.
Hi, I'm Amber Anderson, and we are with The Next Come Up, and I am blessed to be here with Ms. Daniela Taplin-Lundberg. Daniela, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's so fun to be here.
So awesome. So you're a producer on the show. So I wanted to ask specifically, how does the movie correlate with issues of migration today?
Migration, that's such an interesting story. Question.
Just start with something like simple, right?
I love you dove right in there. I'm actually the descendant of Mexican migrants, and I think that issue is all about trying to live the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? And my grandparents came over to the States to try to give a better life to their children, and I believe in that. I believe in giving every person the opportunity to make lives better for their descendants, and I think that was what Harriet was trying to do.
Who's joining me? You might recognize this young man, Algie Smith.
I think that Harriet's story is inspirational because it is of a woman who, one, changed her own destiny, and then two, went on to change the lives of so many people and to change the course of her nation. So hopefully it will inspire people.
And then she told me it was Harriet, and I almost fell out of my seat. I almost spat my tea out all over the place. And I guess there was, an inner search to find out whether I was strong enough to do that, whether I was ready enough to move out of the way of it, make space for this person to come in and tell her story. I felt like I was, and I was scared enough to know that it was the right thing to do. Casey says that when she was told that she was directing, her heart started beating, and that's usually the measure of when something is like good. Yeah, when it fills you with a little bit of fear and a little bit of, I'm not sure I know how to do that. I don't know if I have everything I need. It means you have to prep for it. It's not easy. It doesn't come easy, which is, and I like challenge. I like hard work. That seems to be the thing I do. Yeah, and that was the journey. And being on set and finding her voice, finding her body, finding where she put her tension, all of that is where I had to go in order to find her, to put her on screen. Yeah.
You talked about your journey a little bit in the beginning. What kind of advice would you have for someone who has a vision, and then you talked about basically creating your own work, which led to something else? So, what advice would you give to people who are looking to either be an actor or actress, or just in general, just have like a dream that they want to follow? What would you say to that person?
You have to want it. I'd say you have to really want it. Like if you can't really imagine yourself doing anything else, I think the most important thing I would say is find a tribe, find your people that you can make things with. Whether you're a young actor and you want to put on a play, or whether you're a young writer, find other writers, or find the young actors to read your play and put it, or like community and tribe, or find the people that are like go to the things, or do just when you find a group of people that get you don't want to rise through the ranks. Mm-hmm. You want to rise with the ranks, right? You're not gonna like the scene is set at the moment. It is how it is right now. You're going to be 1 in a million or 1 in a billion if you just randomly score this job that shoots you up into the stratosphere. What I think the best advice is find your peeps and just start making work. Just start whatever you're into. Just generate it, make it, do it, write it, make it. It's so easy now. Just shoot it on your phone, do whatever, just make it, and then do it again next weekend, and then do it again next weekend. And then find some other people and then rise together. And then when someone's going to get a gig and do this, and they're going to go do it. And so many of my favorite filmmakers are still using all of the people that they worked on their first student film. Or that, this happens, and this is, I think that's your biggest strength. Find your peeps, make the stuff that you love, because eventually you're going to get paid to do something that you might not love, which is okay. You got to draw that line for yourself, what you're going to do. But if you can always fall back and know that at the end of the day, you don't need someone else to validate your art or your craft, because unless that person says, I'm going to pay you to do this job, then you're not an actor or you're not a writer. Fuck that. You can write every day with your friend and make your own, and that's the stuff that matters, and it's what teaches you the craft.
Hi, I am Amber Anderson with The Next Come Up, and I'm here with Mr. Frankie Smith. Frankie, how's it going?
It is going so great. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited for you.
Thank you.
So Black and Blue, what was it like working on that set?
It was really a lot of fun. It was my very first action, packed film. So to be there to watch all the stunts and all the gunfire, I was kind of like a kid in a candy store.
What advice would you give to our listeners who are trying to be where you are right now?
Become multi-talented. Learn different ththings. Learn how to play, a musical instrument. Learn a different language. Learn how to swim. all those things, I think are important for us as actors because it makes us more bankable. When a director is looking for someone that, knows Kung Fu, no one is going to have to train you. You already know it. They need someone that knows how to speak French. You already know it. Add things to your resume.
And do you know any martial arts?
No, I can pretend like I know what I'm doing.
Well, that's what acting is.
I used my acting skills to build my company. Right, so I'd have to cold call people like from food companies that I didn't, right, and I would be able to go, I know if I pitch my voice up a little bit, that the males that I'm dealing with will be more likely to help me. I had to ask a lot of favors. Hi, I just don't know how yams are. Like, where do I get yams? How do I source yams? And the guys were always like, well, let me help you out. It's like, but if I sounded like a sort of a strong, mature woman, I knew certain doors weren't going to open. And so I was able to use different parts of my personality, not characters, but parts of my personality to kind of get indoors.
And finally, I'd just like to ask, what advice would you give our listeners who are also on their come up?
Keep going. Sometimes the phone doesn't ring. Sometimes your agent doesn't call. And those are the moments that you have to really concrete in your mind what it is that you want, what you're working towards, and be about it because it's coming. And the best thing you can be is ready.
I love that. Okay, real quick, what advice would you give to our listeners who are really just trying to get their next come up?
Don't be scared to take risks, but make sure they're calculated risks. Scared money don't make no money. And you gotta be a little uncomfortable if you want to grow. Growing pains. You gotta have that discomfort. So don't just stay in your comfort zone or you'll be in the same box.
I want to ask you, do you see any correlation between your character's marriage and your marriage?
I do see some similarities actually, because I've told a few people that David's issue, particularly as a politician, is that he just gives too much of his life to work. He's not necessarily bad at the core like some of or one of, or I don't know, you got to watch, other characters are. But because he's an honest guy, because he's such a hard worker, he gives so much of himself to that and forgets to give that to his wife and his daughter. And I think I have to remind myself a lot as an actor to do that because, as you know, like when you're filming stuff or times like this where you're doing press tours. I mean, I just got in from LA basically this morning, like after midnight to be here for this today. And when you're doing press tours or filming or whatever it may be, you're away from your family, so you have to toe the line between like giving it your all but also saving as much as you can to give to your family.
It's a balance, and the balance can be a struggle.
Oh, the balance is real and it's hard, but it's worth it.
Would you like to give our listeners any advice to, where you are right now, how they can get there?
Hard work, perseverance, and God. I should say God first, because God first, quite honestly. And then everything else kind of falls behind that, definitely. Because when God puts something on your heart, that means he's already made a path for you to get to it. And so you stay vigilant and know that you already have the victory. Just keep moving.
So what type of inspiration do you draw from?
Everything, women, trees, colors, babies, my everything, what I'm saying? Anything. Right now, this entire little press tour, it's all inspiring, honestly.
In your marriage, do you see any correlation to the character that you play?
You know what? At first, I didn't, and it took my wife seeing it with me. We were at Essence Festival, and they premiered it, and I was doing a panel, and I said, I don't know, I don't see any similarity. Gary don't even get a proper haircut half the time. He's sloppy. I don't see no. She said, no, you know what, man? I actually think there are some similarities between you and Gary. I said, what similarities you see between me and Gary Washington? She said, I believe that under any circumstances, you would fight for your family. And I said, you know what? You're right. And I didn't even see that necessarily. I think some of the things that we do as actors, we try to connect to what it is about it. And that was a connection I think I made unknowingly. But definitely, Gary is a fighter. He's fighting for his family. He's willing to do whatever he has to do to get his family back together. And I would, under any circumstances, whatever the case may be, I would do that. I would do that exact same thing.
Sounds like a stand-up individual to me.
There it is.
Any advice you would give to our listeners who are trying to get to where you are right now?
Know that nobody owes you anything, and do the work. You know, I think that's key. And know who you are. You know, I think that's very important, is that you have a good foundation and know why you're in this business. What are you in it for? And I think from there, you know, having that kind of foundation and knowing who you are, keeping your faith and doing the work, you'll be able to enter into any relationship, you know, with a whole person. Yeah, so I think that's one of the three main key things that anybody needs to work on.
I think that's wonderful advice our listeners can sink their teeth into. Thank you so much, Tobias. So is there a feeling you'd like audiences to walk away with?
Yes, we're going to have, a lot of times the documentary films are looked at like you have to tell something bad, like you have to leave the theater crying about humanity and the situation we're at. In this film, we hope that you leave the theater dancing, because the clave goes like this. What is the clave? Gozo, se va en la calle, se escucha en la casa, se bailan los niños, estamos en Times Square, baby, yeah, baby.
Love it. All right, I can't wait to check it out.
We want people to leave with that inspiration, with that connection, feeling inspired in terms of how we are all connected through the motherland of Africa, and how this is a very alive movement in which we are all feeling inspired, and this is our opportunity to check it.
I'm inspired.
To be the showrunner of a show, Queen Sugar, that is created with such intentionality, that is unapologetic in both being willing to entertain and edify, ask tough questions, say something, tell stories that matter. Unapologetically, I'm in heaven. I'm in heaven. That's what I got into this to do. And not all of television does that. There's a lot of great television out there, but to do that and to do it in black in particular is... I am of the opinion, which may not be a popular opinion, that there are a lot of people who say they want to be showrunners and they don't know what that is. I think because showrunner is something that has entered the sort of pop culture lexicon now in the last 20 years, I think people think it's what they see on magazines, you know, that's not what it is. It's work. It is nose to the grindstone. It's having a vision and working arduously to make that come true. So I'm a writer first, who then became a producer and now a showrunner. So for me, it's about the work. It's about getting good at your art, better and better at your art and at your craft. And so I'm much more inspired by people who say they want to be writers than I am by people who say they want to be showrunners. Because I don't think you really know what you're talking about. I would say for people who are interested in doing this, be about the work. You know, we have this word called profession, right? What is your profession? Well, part of the word profession is profess. What are you professing? Whatever you profess, that's what you need to be doing. If you're a writer, then you need to be writing, not talking about writing. You know, if you're a director, you need to be figuring out a way to direct and not just talking about directing. You know, same thing, you know, and so I think in this sort of instant gratification world, there is this idea of just wanting to grasp onto a title and say, this is what I am. And I just think that should you get an opportunity, you should really have done the work to back up what you profess that you are.
Great advice.
You mentioned your wife. How supportive is she of your career endeavors?
Yeah, incredibly. She's here actually right now, so that gives you a sense of how supportive she is. With what I do, it requires me sometimes to work really odd hours. I'll have to work on a weekend or get up very early and then work very late. The projects are usually very taxing, and music for film is usually the last thing that they do. So the picture's ready, everything's done. We need original music because we can't use these temp tracks that we're using. So, and with the commercial stuff, it's even worse. We need it yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes I'm having to go to work very odd hours or late hours, and she's just incredibly supportive, even though her own job is very demanding hour-wise. So it's a great match. Yeah.
Now, did that take some time to kind of for her to understand that you, not to understand, but did you guys have to work to some sort of agreement as time went on during the course of the relationship?
No, when you find the perfect person, it's not a conversation you actually have to have.
Right.
Yeah. So I was lucky on that front.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. We should all be so lucky with that, to be honest with you. That's awesome. When you're working on a project, whether it be film, commercial, or other, do you actually get to provide input on it? Or do you come to the table, rather, with the idea, or you say, hey, this is what we need?
So I'm realistic about what my role is. And my role really isn't to write what I want. That's not what I do. And I don't do that for even when I'm working with a commercial artist. My job is to find the music that the director hears in their own head and help them achieve that. So I rarely come to the table with, this is what I would do, this is what I want to do, you know.
And what happens when you guys disagree at the end, on the back end of things?
Rarely happens.
Awesome.
I'm pretty, like I said, realistic about the fact that it's their project, and I'm just trying to help them tell their story.
Right. Now, Roman, one of the things we always like to ask our guests on the next come up, what advice would you have for someone who's trying to pursue a goal, or a career rather, in music, who aspires to do what you do?
I would say that you need to work on your craft before you try to offer your craft to others. Whether it's writing a track for a reality TV star or scoring a commercial, it's understanding the basics of music so that I can understand what people expect me to do.
Right.
Once I first got into a salon, and I noticed that it wasn't really a job to me. Like, I worked at Journeys when I was younger, and I hated going to work. But when I started to feel like I loved going to work, and I started to feel like, wow, I'm doing something I like to do and I'm getting paid, like, I felt like that was when I figured out, like, okay, this is gonna be my career. I'm starting to really get known for rapping, so I can't stop, and I would never stop, because I don't know, I feel like I've done hair for years now, and I kind of want to I want to explore what's going on out there in the rap industry. But yeah.
Well, what's the feedback been like from your peers?
At first, it was a lot of like, oh, stick the hair. You know, we don't really want gay rappers. You're an amazing stylist. Why would you stop? But I ignore it all.
Well, just in terms of whether it's, you know, in the hair industry with the music, have you faced a lot of discrimination trying to get where you've gotten?
With hair, no. Why? Because I started so young. I marketed my age, and I also always took no for an answer. With music, it's a little different because the industry is so saturated. But I'm still not going to take no for an answer.
Right. So, what advice would you give people who are who have those kind of challenges, specifically with the discrimination? People, you know, saying, "Oh, you can't do this because you're this way or that way."
I would definitely tell people, like, you can't really listen to people, because if I would have listened to people years ago, I wouldn't be where I am. I will also tell people, always remember, it's always someone out there trying to break those barriers. Like, I'm trying to really break a barrier that I feel like we have to kick down. Like, we have to let go of people and their sexuality becoming a problem in the industry. Like, you know, I'm trying to knock it down, and I am going to knock it down. You know what I'm saying? So I just want people to know, like, there's always other people going through the same thing you're going through, and we're all just going to try to have to push through.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very true.
Now, what advice would you give someone who is pursuing a career in, say, in fashion or in this makeup and hair styling? Thank you.
I would definitely say just be as creative as possible, and make sure you use your Instagram to your fullest. Like, not even Instagram, just social media, period. Like, use it at the highest advantage you can. I just felt like I like to showcase what I did at first, and I just was like, let me make a video. Let me make a video to people swinging the hair and stuff, and it led to me getting followers, and then with the followers it came money, and then it came, you know, different offers with celebrities and stuff. So that's what I'm saying. Like, they have to use their social media because it's like a big circle. Everybody knows everybody on social media.
So why is it important to tell this story?
I think because this story parallels to today. It's a mirror of what's going on today still. Listen, the opium epidemic today, right?
Right.
This is going on today. Kids are dropping like flies around the country, all over. And it's such an epidemic. It's heartbreaking. I know people who are going through this. It destroys families. It doesn't just destroy the person. And this is happening, a big thing in our show. You know, the opium, the drug life, the drugs, dealing with the drugs. And also, it's very relevant today. Right. Every one of the storylines could be 2019.